Alright, hello Codebreakers, back again with another video of the NSA Codebreaker Challenge. This one's going to be covering Task 4. So this is the first time that you're actually going to get a chance to actually start up the Terror Time application and give it a little bit of a spin. And so our goal here is to log in as the Terror Time terrorist that was arrested in the previous task and find out a little bit of information about what it is that they're doing. So in this case, you're going to need a way to actually run the application. So I would recommend downloading Android Studio because it does come with an Android emulator that you can set up. So we can go ahead and open up the Android APK. So now we've got our APK pulled up and we're going to need to actually run it. So before you follow along with this video, you should actually get an Android emulator set up, and there are probably some other guides for how to do that. But it doesn't take very long. It just takes a little bit to download some files that you're going to need to set it up. I have a Nexus 5X API version 28, and it will go ahead and get started up here. Okay, so now I've got my emulator up and running, and the first thing that we're going to want to do is actually start up the Terror Time application on here. We can do that by going and clicking this nice big play button right here, and it will go ahead and start our application. So now, in this case, we see that there is a login screen that says enter client ID and PIN. There is a settings field for an account setup. And then there is an option to register a new terrorist. So if we want to create an all new user. So now we go to our login page here. And now let's go ahead and pull back up our database from the previous task. So we pulled up our client DB here, and we can see that there's this field called check PIN. Now, that kind of sounds like it would be the PIN to log into the app here. And then we also have the CID, which is our client ID to log in. So we can go ahead and put in our client ID here. Kali-vhost-2524 at terrortime.app. And you will see that sometimes the simulator does run pretty slow because there are it takes quite a bit of processing power. And then we can try to put in a PIN. Now here's something that's actually interesting that they've kind of given away to us. They said that the PIN must be exactly 6 number characters in length. So if we're wanting to figure out exactly what this PIN is going to be, we now know it's exactly 6 digits. Well, there's only so many 6-digit numbers that we can try here. So rather than actually go through and check them all, what if there is an easier way to just brute force it? So if we look here at our check PIN, we'll see this blob data here, and there's some bytes here. Now there's a curious coincidence here with the number of bytes in this and a very popular hashing function that we've already used before. We've already seen that they use the SHA-256 hash of a lot of different things. So that immediately gives you a clue that this is probably a 6-digit number that has been run through the SHA-256 hash. So what if we can just make a script that can brute force it for us? So what I've done here is I've written just a very simple Python script that loops through all numbers from 100,000 to 999,999. And so that will cover pretty much every 6-digit number, unless it starts with a 0. But this, we'll just kind of, to simplify things, we'll keep it with just this one simple loop. And what we're going to do is take that number and then take the SHA-256 hash of it and then compare it to the bytes from our database. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. So that only took a few seconds. We found that the pin code with this hash is 610013. So that was pretty easy. So let's go ahead and try to log in. Oh, we still can't get in. Well, the reason for that is because this is a new Android device. It doesn't have any of the files from the previous terrorist application on there. So in order to log in using that client ID and PIN, it would help if this client ID and PIN were somehow included in the app. Luckily, Android Studio gives us a very easy way to do that. If you go to your View menu and then Tool Windows, you can look at the Device File Explorer. And when you pull that up here, you can see the files that are on the emulator at the moment. And if you do a little bit of research, you'll find that you can discover where the files are for a specific application. And that's under Data, Data, and then we can scroll down here and we'll see com.badguy.terrortime, and then a folder called databases. And look, we see a file called clientdb.db. Now this clientdb is actually empty because no one's ever logged into it before. So we'll delete that file, and then we can right click here and say upload, and we'll select our clientdb. Now this is the one that includes this information, including this PIN and this client ID. The other important details about it is that it also includes the public and private key for this user, and because this application uses end-to-end encryption. So without these details, we're not going to be able to read any of their messages. But since we have this captured database, we're able to go in here after putting in that client DB. We can put in our client ID. We can see our PIN here, 610013. And click Login. Aha, so now we're logged in, and we can see that this person's been communicating with 2 different people. And because we were able to log in using this database that includes their public and private key, we can also see their messages in plain text. So if we look back at the task here, we'll see they want to see the cell leader username and then the action date. So let's look back at this. So we know that this says, see you before April Fool's Day. What time? 1917. So then we don't really have enough information to figure out the exact day. So it says April Fool's Day, 1917. Now let's go over to our conversation with Liam. So you say the band will be picked up in 1917, exactly before the holiday, one day. So we know one day before April Fool's Day, and it will be at 1917. So April Fool's Day is always the 1st of April. So let's pull up a little Unix timestamp here. Now we're already past April Fool's Day for 2019, so let's put in 2020 03 31 19 17 and click convert. So this will be March 31st 2020 at 1917. So judging by these conversations, in Sarah's case, they're actually speaking very formally and saying sure, and then they say want to make sure the sir is pleased and confident in us. So we know that Sarah is probably not the leader. Whereas in Liam's case, it's very formal. It says, of course, sir. And so we can guess that Liam is actually the leader of this organization, or at least this cell. So in our answer sheet, we'll put in Liam's username and then the time that we figured out from our Unix time converter.